I thought they really looked unprepared for playoff basketball in game one of the series. And like, how much of it is the basketball god said, you showed up for the playoffs, not ready to compete at a playoff intensity level. We're not letting you get away with that. So you look at the way the series was bookended. I thought the Lakers were fairly low energy in game one. And I thought game five, they, from the opening tip, looked disinterested in getting on a flight and going back to Minnesota, which is disappointing compared to what other teams in their situation around the league did. There were a few times in the middle where I thought, game two, game three, where I thought, God, the Lakers should have won that game, but they just tripped over their own 2 feet. Game two, they did win, even though it was a rock fight. But it felt like they were hurting themselves in these games, and they were causing all these problems. So it was a frustrating series in that regard. And just, it felt like they just never really got going in this series. And it was frustrating to watch for sure. And I know frustrating for Lakers fans.
I think it's a perfect transition because I want to spend a little time on this, and we don't have to rush through it. I think there's layers to this. You said they came out unprepared in game one. You felt that in game five as well. Let's talk JJ, because I'm curious to get your thoughts on how much of that responsibility is on JJ Redick. I think we got the man got a lot of praise during the regular season. I think he deserved it. And I think he also got a lot of criticism in the playoffs, and I think he deserved it. If we take a step back and we are not looking at, the Lakers didn't just lose game five and were eliminated last night, kind of got a chance to step back from it, got a chance to listen to him during the exit interviews as well. He's certainly in a growth stage and trying to figure out, who he is as a head coach. There were some moments I really liked from JJ, and then there were moments the playoffs threw me off on JJ. I kind of felt almost kind of like the Lakers. I felt like I knew who the Lakers were coming into the postseason, and then all of a sudden it was a different team. I felt like I knew who JJ was coming into the postseason. I felt like he coached differently in the postseason. When you take a step back and you look at what JJ Redick accomplished in his first year as the coach of the Lakers, give me some of your thoughts and your feelings, and then incorporate the playoffs, because I don't think you can not incorporate the playoffs into that mix.
Yeah, I think JJ in a lot of ways mirrored the team in that the team's issues that we saw coming out of the Luka trade ended up getting exposed and being real come playoff time. JJ's issues coming into the season, just being a rookie head coach and everything that comes with that, didn't look bad during the season. He had a great season, I think. And then in the playoffs, you went, oh, okay, maybe there is a little bit of a lack of experience here, right? Playing five guys the entire second half, the decisions that he made, not playing Jack Stace, right? The buttons that JJ pressed, the gambles that he took in the series against the Wolves did not pay off. And I didn't think that would be the case. I thought if there is a path through this series, JJ Redick will find it. And instead, I thought he looked, the moves that he made him look like a rookie head coach. Now, that said, though, he also had a great regular season. And maybe this is just the lumps that come with being a rookie head coach, and you've got to learn the playoffs, and that just takes time. And so I want to be careful with JJ that we don't just look at the playoffs and say, that's it, that completely erases the whole season that he had. Did he struggle in the postseason? Yes, but the bigger question is, did he learn from the postseason? That's going to be the important thing long term. How would JJ approach things differently now moving forward? So I think you're right. I think it's a bit of both. I thought he had a really good regular season. I thought he had a bad playoffs, and it's okay to acknowledge both of those things. And I don't think either one necessarily has to land us on, see, JJ's not that guy. See, JJ is that guy. He's great, all that. Overall, I think he had a very, very good season. I think he did better, especially during the regular season, than I would have expected. And I'll tell you what, the entire time he had the buy-in from that team. So that kind of stuff matters. I think that's important for the team moving forward. And it's certainly something that we've seen his predecessors lose eventually, was the buy-in from the players. But hopefully this was a learning and growing opportunity for JJ in the playoffs, and then he's able to be better next year.
So it's funny. I think JJ raised some questions that I didn't think were going to be questions coming into the offseason. And listen, only one team wins. So no matter what you accomplish, you're left with, how did your team lose at the end? Maybe if you're the Detroit Pistons, you can walk away and say, okay, hey, it's all good. Look the difference of how many wins we had last year compared to this year. They clearly are happy with their coach and their future and some of their young players. but not every team is going to end their season like that. My problem with JJ, I think in the postseason is I almost felt like he became a different coach. That wasn't the coach that we watched for 82 games plus six preseason games. I thought one of his strengths was I didn't feel like he was, how do I put this? I didn't feel like he was stubborn as a head coach. You know, you could see that with head coaches where they get stuck in one way and it's like, yep, we're not changing it. I'm not changing it. This is going to eventually work. All of a sudden in the playoffs, I felt like JJ, personality-wise, you know, I hated his response to when you questioned him about doing something that no other NBA coach has ever done in playoff history, which is not making a substitution in the second half. He kind of had this attitude, how dare you question me?
Right.
And I'm with you that, you know, all of that sucks because I think he did have a great regular season. And I think the taste we have in our mouth today of JJ Redick is not indicative of probably the coach that he is. And it's going to be up to him. You know, I was at the exit interview, and it was one of the questions that I asked JJ was kind of give us your overview feeling. You went through, you had a tremendous amount of success. You were praised a ton. And now all of a sudden you're out in 5 games and you're being criticized. How do you take all of that? And he said something about the road is never supposed to be this straight road that is, you know, an easy path to get wherever you want to get to. The way he described it was it's a windy road. He gave an example of, remember when they got eliminated and Giannis said, just because you didn't win, it doesn't mean you didn't have a successful season. Yeah. So I felt like his answer was somebody that understood. He made mistakes along the way as well. And the best thing he could do now is correct those mistakes.
Yeah. And hopefully that's that's what he's going to spend the off season. I mean, there's one thing, JJ is very, very dedicated. Obviously he's going to put in the work. And yeah, I didn't like that response either when he, stormed out at that question. Now the implication was pretty clear from the question that he didn't really know what he was doing. So I get why he, was a little bit annoyed by it, but I also thought it showed kind of the pressure of the situation. And so I don't know.
Guys, as a funny trip, when that was all unfolding, so I had my head down and I was there, at the presser, and I had my head down, and I just had my head down. I was looking at my phone for no other reason. And as it was all unfolding, I'm like, tell me this isn't happening. And listen, the question is the question. That's whether you like the question or you don't. There are going to be questions that come to a player or a coach, and it's more about just how the player or the coach is going to react to it. And in my head, I'm like, JJ, please just bullshit your answer.
Yep.
Of course I look at my assistants. I depend on those guys so much. It's a good question. I like the question. I'm like, just bullshit the answer. And when he stormed out, I'm like, yeah, that's going to be played everywhere.
Yep.
And it's going into game 5. Like the way that was all set up, and it was the fact how JJ responded to it. I'm like, yeah, this is not going to look good.
No, absolutely. And that's where, we can talk about the strengths and weaknesses of coaches. And one of the things that the Lakers really liked about JJ was they believed he was going to win the press conferences, that he was going to have the right answers more often than not. Might he say something fiery every now and then? Sure. And I think in general, he has done a pretty good job. But that was, again, maybe the pressure of the moment, maybe that lack of experience showing through in that moment. I think of, Frank Vogel. I mean, from covering him, that was a guy who I thought, my God, he just never gets tripped up. Aside from when he got the news that he was fired, that was so unfortunate that he got fired at the podium. That was the only time I saw Frank even let the wall down or anything like that. He was so good at winning the press conferences. You threw him any curveball you wanted, and he just expertly would evade and then hit the answer out of the park. So yeah, he was fantastic at it. But JJ, again, for the most part, I thought did great in his pressers. That one situation, though, in that moment going into game 5, that's not where you really want the attention to be. And unfortunately, that's where it was.
It'd be awesome is if I asked you a question that you didn't like and you just said, Al, I'm out of here. And you left and you just wasn't good. You just, Al, you got to be better. And then you just turn off your screen. Just send a message, Trev. Send a message to everyone. You're not putting up with this BS in the offseason.
That's right. I'm going to I'm going to find something to throw down and then, set my mic down and off we go.
All right, thank you very much for watching the clip. Just want to give a shout out here to one of our partners, the Wallace Firm. They are official injury attorney of the Sliwa Show and Hoops Talk, the entire channel. If you are ever in a need, and I hope you're not, but some type of serious injury with yourself or a family member of yours, I would like to personally help you by introducing you to the best in the business, Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Also got a URL out here that you can use as well. Just go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Thank you for their partnership, and thank you for being a part of the Sliwa Show.